Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wind up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. So today is a solo sode, and I want to talk about something that keeps coming up all the time. I'm talking with colleagues, I'm talking with prospective clients, my mentors, and particularly one of my mentors kind of was the impetus for this post. So again, one of my mentors, one of my coaches, essentially in not so many ways said, like, I would never really need your services could I could just have AI do everything for me. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. Why you can't just rely on AI for your health or your GP for that matter, and why it's a little bit more in depth. So first off, and people are getting more and more comfortable with using AI and for whatever purposes, and certainly for health and that sort of thing. And to some degree, I use AI myself for looking up things, verifying. Very little do I actually use it with my own clients, but there are certain things it can be helpful. But here's the thing, and most of us are getting better at it. Even my kids are getting better at using AI, but it's really about the prompting. Are you using the right prompting? Do you have the right information in there? Even if you're using the top tier paid versions of different AI platforms, whether it be ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to realize that it's based on sort of the current knowledge that's sort of publicly available, publicly acceptable. So anything that is, and I'll come back to this a little bit later, anything that is, cutting edge, brand new, recent study, et cetera, that's not your standard of care, may or may not get picked up, quite often not. So number one, you need to be really good at prompting, and many people are, and certainly my mentor is. I mean, he's built a whole business around AI, so he is someone who knows how to do proper prompting, and that's something I'm even learning myself, and I think I'm getting a lot better at it as well for my own personal uses. Again, not in a health sense, but if that is something where you have not mastered yet, what kind of information are you getting back? So that's number one. I've said this many times before. You've heard me say this before. From when new data, clinically proven, double-blinded studies, et cetera, it's like this is the new methodology or modality to treat something or to work on something. By the time that gets it to your frontline GP, that's a whole generation of doctors. The average, from studies is 17 years from when, like, hey, we have this new process to handle XYZ thing. By the time it gets to your frontline doctor who's already gone through medical school, who's gone through all that stuff, by the time it becomes accepted practice, on average, it's 17 years. On average. Some come obviously a lot faster, 5, 6, 7 years, some 20 more years. So keep that in mind. So the latest things that you might actually need to optimize your health, your GP is not going to necessarily know, and also AI might not know yet. That might not be part of the data set that it's pulling from. So that's number one. Number two, another thing I was talking about, especially again, working with your GP, and many people have witnessed this, and I get this all the time from prospective clients and clients. Like, well, my doctor said I was normal. I was in the normal range. Look, normal people are sick. Normal people are obese, right? We have, depending where you are in the world, you're like looking at least 60% obesity or overweight, at least. These reference ranges are based on the average person. Now, if you're watching this podcast, you don't want to be average. You want to be exceptional. You want to be the top tier for your health, for your vitality, for your longevity. So you can't go with necessarily with the standard reference ranges. I'll give you two perfect examples. So one is testosterone. Over the last 20, 30 years, testosterone levels, men and women, but mostly more so for men, have fallen. So the reference range, the standard reference range has slid to lower. Now, why is this? Well, we can get a whole another podcast on why this has happened, but basically what I'm saying is that if you go and get if your doctor even tests testosterone or other hormones, that's a big if, And there's like, oh yeah, you're in the normal range. Well, look, you don't want to be in the normal range. Maybe if it's the very high end of the range, you'd be at the midpoint or the low end of the range from 10, 15, 20 years ago. So for most of my clients, again, talking more sort of the men, but this affects women as well, you actually might want to be at the high end of the testosterone range or even surpassing that because that was the normal from 10, 20, 30 years ago. Just because society has gotten sicker and these values have gone down and the scale has slid down doesn't mean that's where we want to be. We want to be optimal. Second scenario, where I see this all the time, excuse me, is with your blood sugar levels. I look again from an optimized point of view. So if you want to be, your doctor might say, "Oh, you're normal," or "Oh, you know what, your number's a little bit high. We need to keep an eye on this. You know, you're not pre-diabetic yet, but like we need to take some interventions." Look, if your doctor is telling you right now that you are like pre-diabetic or you're like just on the cusp, but you're fine from the standard range, that's what they're going to tell you. From an optimized range, you are already pre-diabetic. If you're on that cusp, you're already pre-diabetic. If you're like pre-diabetic on the standard range, you're probably actually already diabetic. You need to intervene immediately. So again, I look at it from an optimized point of view as opposed to standard reference range. So why do I bring this up in the case of AI? Is AI is going to tell you the standard reference range is where you fall. So again, using my mentor as an example, he got a bunch of tests done. He threw it into, I think he used ChatGPT, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Threw all of his values in, etc., and got a recommendation plan based on that. Well, in my view, that's great. That's like taking a good step. And again, I champion everyone to be an advocate for their own health and take their own measures. But if you're starting from like that point of view with not really the right data, then everything else is going to be not on point. You know, that whole, I don't want to say, you know, that whole saying garbage in, garbage out. Well, it's not necessarily garbage in, you're putting something in, but it's not what you could have. And, you know, the opportunity there is not that so simple to get these type of ranges or have that sort of analysis that, you know, again, someone like myself or other coaches like myself who understand optimization versus standard reference range. So again, by just throwing that in an AI model, it doesn't understand this. It doesn't know optimization. It's going to go standard of care. So there's a lost opportunity there. Now, when it comes to recommendations that the AI spits out, I will say this, using it for, let me take a step back. Again, I'll use my mentor as an example. He got a bunch of tests done. I think he got his DNA, basic blood labs, as I mentioned. I do not believe he got metabolites or microbiome. So two big things right there. Those are huge critical tests. So that's a missed opportunity there by not working with a professional who knows that you should be doing this. Like DNA, that's great. That's awesome. Again, that's one of the tests I use. So I use microbiome, metabolites, DNA, biological age, plus your blood work and maybe hormones and maybe some other tests as well, depending individual case basis. But by neglecting, you know, two of those for sure, metabolites and microbiome, you're already working with an incomplete data set. Now, the data he did put in, that's great. What I will say is the supplementation recommendations based on DNA, et cetera. You know, if you're a poor methylator, you're going to need supplements that have the methyl version. Like you're going to get proper guidance from that. But again, if you have incomplete data, there's probably supplements missing. There's probably supplements that he's missing. There's maybe some interactions that AI may or may not understand. Although I will say, again, using it for myself, using AI for, let's just say you have a list of 20 supplements that were recommended to you, however you got them, working with a coach, your doctor, generated through AI, whatever. Very good at saying, okay, this is water soluble, this is fat soluble. You need to eat this one with food, not with food. These two interact. You need to separate them. That's great. That is a great use case for AI. And again, I even use that myself. But again, you need the right prompt. You need the right inputs. And if you're missing components, you don't have a complete picture. Again, there's another thing as well. A lot of medical research thus far, it's getting better, for the first, well, since, medical research has started, let's just call it from the like 1900s. 1900s, for most of the last century, were really based on white men. And then we got a little bit better in the last, 30, 40 years. We started, doing studies and stuff on women, right? And of course, there's other places in the world that do, the Japanese will do studies on Japanese, probably, et cetera, right? Overall, the scientific literature and research is underrepresenting people of color. It is what it is. So a lot of these recommendations, well, generally are going to translate across all people. There are some variances that one needs to take account, and this is the biggest thing. One of the biggest things I do with working with my clients is take into account, not only their personal preferences for what they want to do, whether it be food, how they set their day up, their lifestyle, the type of movement, exercise they like to do, obviously their lifestyle goals, and then ethnicity and cultural influences, which can be nuanced, right? So someone who is of African descent or the Caribbean or East Indian, like I am, et cetera. So there are some nuances there that without understanding that makes it very difficult to have proper implementation plan go forward. So you're not going to get this from your doctor because they're not going to know, and you're not going to get this from AI either. So again, if you don't have that experience with AI and the proper prompting, and I do believe there's limitations still there. How can you get very individualized implementation plan based on, again, for your nutrition, for your movement, based on your lifestyle, ethnicity, cultural things, et cetera, and what you actually want to achieve, what your actual goals are. One of the first things I work on with my client is a very robust intake. And it takes 2 hours just so I can understand you and your life and how you interact with your family and your business, et cetera, so that any recommendations I make can fit with that. And you're just not getting that with AI right now, at least that I haven't seen. Yeah, another thing that my mentor mentioned was, they put in all this data. However, he, prompted, again, he's very strong at this. He runs an AI business to get a movement plan, so an exercise plan. So very simple. I want these goals. I want to lose this much weight. I want to put on this much muscle. Here's my baseline. Here's the time I have to commit. Whatever, you can put all these prompts in, and you can get a plan, and that's great. And I think that's a great basis. And I don't think you can't go wrong with that. But how does it modify based on maybe injury, strains or sprains that you might have? Again, that might require a slight nuance, right? If someone, maybe you put in the prompt, I want to, gain muscle mass. I think my chest is underdeveloped. I want a little bit heavier on upper body, et cetera, et cetera. Great. But then you tweak your shoulder doing something. And then the plan just tells you this, like, yeah, you can say, okay, I hurt my shoulder. And depending on how you put the prompt in, AI might say, okay, stop exercising altogether to continue on or just lighten the weight. Well, depending on what the injury is, or maybe it's not even an injury, it's just a strain or a sprain, you can't just lighten the weight. You have to maybe change the exercise altogether. You might have to hit the muscle from a different angle. You might have to take in other body parts into consideration, right? So again, if my shoulder is strained, I can't do bench press or push-ups or something like that. I might have to still work on my chest doing something else my shoulder can handle. Or, there's then the variations that are endless. So again, there's nuance there that when you work with a coach or something like that, you can modify. So again, I'll use myself as an example here. I've had, gosh, a million injuries, dozens anyway, throughout my lifetime, from training too hard, training improperly, these sorts of things. So, like, I have to really watch my shoulders because I had a past shoulder injury. So, I do a lot of stretching, I do a lot of mobility work for my shoulders, just so I can work my chest. There's mobility work that and stretching and these sorts of things that I have to do for myself, either pre-workout or post-workout, to make sure I stay injury free. So again, if you can't prompt properly at the upfront, then AI is going to give you like a good basis, but it maybe not complete. And then if you have anything different, or any injury strains, etc. I don't think AI is really at this point be able to modify that. You need to talk to a real person, just like I do, right? I'm trained in this and I know what I can do for myself, but there's times too I have to talk to a professional. I have to talk to a physiotherapist. I have to talk to my chiropractor, or some other professional to get around strains, injuries, etc., and to actually hit my goals. So again, really need this. So that I've had to change, modify myself. Again, I do stuff, mobility work for my shoulders. Sometimes I have to modify, how I train, my back. Here's a perfect example. So when I was younger, I was obese. I've shared this before, chubby kid to obese. I can never, do pull-ups. I can never climb the rope we have to do in gym class. I don't know if some of you maybe are old enough to remember that when they made us do that. I can never do that. Then as I got into university, I got really strong, like really strong. I was basically training like a power lifter, like a bodybuilder, even though I was still like obese, very strong, much bigger than I am now. I could bench press a lot, deadlift, etc. I still could not do a pull-up because even though I was very strong, I still weighed too much. That weight to strength ratio was completely out of whack. Then when I went through my health journey, which I won't go through now, lost all the weight, got back to the weight I was, when I was, an adolescent, etc. That weight to strength ratio had changed. I was able to do pull-ups for the first time ever. I was able to climb a rope for the first time ever. But here's the thing, because I never had to do it, and I started going, I don't want to say crazy, but like I was like, I can do pull-ups, and like I'm doing pull-ups every back workout. Um, I had not developed the muscles and the tendon strength in my forearms and wrists. And then boom, I get an injury there. So then I have to modify from doing pull-ups to from just like your straight sort of pull-ups to usually changing the grip. So either like this or reverse grip, etc., to take the strain off. So besides strengthening my forearms and wrists, and recovering from that injury, I had to modify how I did it. So again, if you're not working with a professional, you're not going to, I don't think AI knows these types of things yet. It will get better. AI will get better. The point we're at, AI will only get better from here, but that is a limitation for now. Here's the other thing, and about, now again, going back to my mentor, a very disciplined guy. If he sets his mind to something, he will achieve it. He will follow through. He didn't become successful without having these traits. And maybe that's you. That's awesome. But many people, and even myself sometimes, we struggle with the adherence, with following the habits, following the things we're supposed to do, the behavioral modifications. Now, there's a ton of AI apps out there. I've tested out a bunch of them. There's new ones coming all the day. I haven't tested them all. I've yet to find one that really, really does a great job of habit forming and behavioral change and adherence to the plan, right? I don't think AI can do that. Whether using ChatGPT or some app that you open every day on your phone, that's whatever they're running in the background, uh, doesn't matter. And some of them are good for some things. There's mixed results. I don't think there's a perfect AI tool, app, whatever yet that really builds and takes into account real behavior change and real adherence to whatever the plan is. Again, this is why it's so important to work with somebody long term, where you have weekly or multiple touch points per week. My clients can get a hold of me. Again, I have my boundaries, but they essentially can get a hold of me every day. Now we meet, frequently, like have set sessions, but they can get a hold of me on, text or WhatsApp or whatever type of thing frequently. And then I can guide them to whatever, issue they're having. And here's the other thing. Again, not everyone's going to have this, not every coach, but working on that inner game, working at the unconscious mind level. A lot of these behavior things or mindset tools are really at the conscious level. And any AI thing, any AI app that I've tested are all at the conscious level, right? Build a new habit in 21 days, in 30 days, whatever the case may be, et cetera. Set timers. So you take your supplements or your workout or whatever the case may be, go to bed at a certain time, like all these things we can do very conscious mind. But if we have trapped emotions, limiting beliefs in our unconscious mind, and I'm not going to go down this because I've talked about this before, our adherence and our likelihood of success is diminished if we don't address those things. So again, with all my clients, whether it be health coaching clients, business coaching clients, we work on this like right near the beginning so that anything we do tactically will work better. So again, if you want to just do AI, do some of that inner game work first, so that anything that the AI prompts or even just a very conscious coach will work on with you, will adhere to better, will work better. So again, but I like to work at the unconscious mind level, that 90% of our mind that we're typically untapping. So again, that's a bit of a limitation with AI, and I think something that most people are not going to have that discipline that my mentor has. Just piggybacking on that a little bit, again, not every coach that you're going to hire is going to be able to provide that type of inner game work like I do. I've yet to see any AI that provides a therapy or I use timeline therapy, I use NLP, I also use hypnosis. I haven't found a single model yet that can actually provide that type of session for a root cause issue, for trapped emotions, would be anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame, rage, or any limiting beliefs, powerless, unlovable, unworthy, not good enough, that many of us have, even very successful people. Everyone has it. It's just a matter of degree. And it's a matter of like clearing that up. Yet to find a model, AI model that has that. I don't know if that can even be built, maybe sometime in the future. But even if you hire a coach, most coaches are conscious coaches. They're working with their conscious mind. Not many are working with the unconscious, like I do. Again, that 90%, that's typically untapped. So again, not everyone's going to have that discipline that my mentor has. Another thing, when you're doing these tests, which again, I'm very fond of, it's one of the first things I do, as I mentioned at the beginning, you're going to get a whole swack load of supplement recommendations. And again, I think AI is very good for saying, when you should take them. We should take them with food or empty stomach, ones that you might want to take away from each other, etc. And like my mentor, who I think he said he takes like 60 to 80 supplements, and I'm going to talk about my experience with that as well. Not everyone can take that many supplements. That gets very pricey. That's in the hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars a month. So then you have to understand, like, what is the biggest bang for my buck? What if I have a laundry list? I'm just going to make it simple. I have 20 supplements that AI has told me to take, or your coach for that matter, has told you to take. Which ones should I really take? Which one is the biggest bang for my buck? I can't afford to take them all. I have budgetary restraints. And it could be any other modality, right? It could be like, you should do a sauna, you should do cold plunges, you should do XYZ. Like, we have to work within our own budgetary constraints. Most people do, myself included. So what is the biggest bang for your buck? I don't think AI, I think AI is okay at that. I don't think it's quite there yet. And I think that's where somebody with experience, somebody who's been through the trenches, who's worked with hundreds, thousands of clients, seen all sorts of cases, experimented on themselves. I think that's where you get the wisdom of what is the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to supplements. Now, when I work with my clients, we do have a phase 1 and a phase 2. So phase 1 is just like, these are the ones you really need to take because you're deficient in these areas. Again, I do the very robust testing. So what is the one area where you're weakest on? I'm going to come back to my example in a second. And that's where you need to focus on, or maybe the 1 or 2 areas you're the most weakest on. Bodily systems, you're the most weakest on. You need to focus on these. These other ones, these are great. These are nice to have, but they're not tier 1. They're not phase 1. These are like to try after, or if budget is not a constraint whatsoever, and you can take all of them. So that's something I offer for my clients. So I want to throw back a bit of my experience. So, went through my health journey, lost all the weight, autoimmune condition into remission, etc. Great. Now I was like, oh, I want to optimize myself. I want to be a centenarian. I want to live healthily to 100 plus. So, okay, here's the basics. Here's some other stuff. I started taking, probably about 40 plus pills a day for years. And again, I was committed to it. And again, it was not inexpensive on a monthly basis. And then I got a little bit lax, I have to say. I was like, well, do I really need to take this one? I'm feeling fine. When you have no symptoms, right? And some of you are going to relate, right? When you struggled like I did in the past, where you're like constantly sick, constantly aching, back pain, etc., the symptoms are like in your face all day long. They're punching you in the face. But when those symptoms primarily go away and now it's about optimization, you don't really feel anything. And a lot of times the supplements, we can't really tell what they're doing. When we're feeling well, we can't tell is it doing anything. It is, but we can't really tell. So you do this for years in my case, and then you're like, yeah, maybe I don't need to this one. This is kind of a expensive one. These two kind of do the same thing. So I'll just focus on one and not the other, etc. So I consciously made the decision to take some of the supplements away and just have the core 10 to 15 that I still take every day. So again, I practice what I preach. I do my tests every so often. Again, DNA you only have to do once in your lifetime, but microbiome, metabolites, etc. So about 7, 8 months ago, I was like, hey, it's been a while. I need to retest. So I get my blood work done, etc. Metabolites, and lo and behold, biological age, etc. Lo and behold, oh geez, I'm not exactly where I want to be. Yeah, this is what I do for a living. This is what I coach people on, how to optimize themselves. And I let myself slip a little bit. Now, there's a variety of factors why this happened, et cetera, or the root cause. But I'm just sharing, and I've shared this before in previous posts and YouTube videos and podcasts, et cetera. You can go search back. So I won't go in depth here, but gut and liver were two of my weak areas. When you look at kind of all the major 12 systems of the body, gut health and liver health were kind of my lower areas. And here's the great thing about, again, our body's not silos. We don't have a heart system. We don't have a neurological system. We don't have a liver system that work in isolation. Our body is one system and they all work together. We can't isolate these subsystems. So by focusing on my 2 or 3 lowest scoring areas, so gut health, liver health as an example, it has a cascading effect and improves other areas as well. So neurological or heart health, they're already pretty high, right? They're in the 80 percentile. Great, awesome. Room for improvement, but we're talking micro things now. But if I improve gut health and liver health, it's going to have a cascading effect all over. So, and I'm saying gut health and liver health because those are my 2 actual lowers. So it's like, oh, geez, not only do I have to bring back some of the supplements that I took out, but I have to add additional ones. So I'll just share what I shared, and this is not medical advice by any means. So CoQ10 was something I had taken for years and kind of was like, whatever. Okay, boom, that's back in for sure. Milk thistle was something I never took before, but very supportive for liver health, which is, again, I knew this from doing my DNA test like 8 or 9 years ago that I have poor liver detoxification pathway. So I have to be very careful with, any, medications, drugs, alcohol, caffeine, even, etc. Anything that the liver processes, I have to be very cognizant of it. I knew this. And again, I never really thought I needed that extra support. But once I got, did my metabolites test, which again, I should say 6 months ago, that was the first time because these are brand new tests. And I'm like, I think it's probably the number one test that people should do if you're struggling with something or you want to optimize is get a metabolites test. So if that's interested, let me know. But it was the first time I did it, and I was like, oh, I did not realize it. So milk thistle, I'm putting that in. And I know and a few other things. I won't get into details. But again, AI is without having a full set of data points and that human interaction, AI is not going to know what is the most important ones for you to take. What is the biggest bang for your buck, et cetera, based on how you score. So again, if you're not throwing a metabolites test into your AI, it has no idea. This isn't like common standard practice. The consumer facing test has only been available for like 18 months, 2 years. This is not in the AI data set thus far. And then I guess the other thing as well, again, back to like, what should you take? Again, my mentors does very well for himself, multiple businesses, et cetera, et cetera. He can afford to spend $1,000 a month on supplements and all these other, you know, health modalities and health optimization practices. Not all of us can. We have to pick our choose what we're going to implement, myself included, as well as most of you are going to. So what is the biggest bang for our buck? What is the things that are going to move the most with our budget constraints? And AI is not going to necessarily give that to you. And then going back to adherence, the last thing I want to talk about is, you know, that human touch. Like AI is getting better, and we have all these chat bots and all this and apps and everything. We can have an interaction back and forth with AI, and it amazes me every time I use it as well. It's getting cool, and it's only getting better. But I don't think you can discount that feeling of really truly being heard by a human person, that human touch, regular meeting with your coach or your mentor or your trainer, whoever the professional that you're working with. Again, whatever that looks like, daily, multiple times a week, what have you. I still feel this is a critical component to lasting change. Now, you can call me old school. That's totally fine. I live up to that. I own that in certain aspects of my life or my own practices. I'm old school. That's fine. But I don't think we're at the point with AI yet where we can discount that human element to really move us forward from that emotional support perspective and the adherence to whatever change we're trying to make. And again, let's go back to that inner game work, which I've already talked about. So again, I myself using AI tools for certain aspects of my own health optimization plan, using a very robust testing that I think some of that data is not in the grand data set yet as a health optimization acceptable point of view. I still think there's a role for coaches. Now, it might not be right for my mentor, but again, most of you who are listening to this don't have the resources or say the mindset or the wherewithal or the skill set to just do it all on your own. So I think there is a role still for, coaches, mentors, trainers, therapists, whatever the case may be for you, to play a role in your long-term health. So again, shared a little bit about my story, how even myself, I have to check myself. I have to do retesting and testing to optimize for my goals. And sometimes I let it slip or things change. There's tons of factors that affect our health. Did you get COVID or not? Did you travel to some, third world country and pick up some bacteria or some parasite or something like that? All these are, it's endless. All these things can change our health, and we have to continuously, at some regular interval, retest, test, and make changes to our supplementation, our nutrition, our exercise routine, our mental health practices, all these things. So again, we need to stay on top of it for optimal health, and that's what I'm all about. So work with whoever you want to work with. If you're interested to learn more about what I do, book a no obligation discovery call. Let's just see if I'm the right person to help you for your goals. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. That's fine too. The link will be, excuse me, the link will be in the show notes to book that call, as well as all my other links, some free resources, free guides, etc. Just download them, check it out, get to learn more about me. I want you to be able to trust me before you even think about working with me. That's key. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share in today's Solo Sode. Not everyone is going to be like my mentor who thinks AI can do everything for them. There's still a human element. There's still a ton of nuance to your health, and we're not there yet with AI. You need to work with a real life person. Till next time, exceptional you, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Don't forget to check out J23. She's going to play us out with some outro music. Till next time, take care. Kion amino acids, essential amino acids, actually all Kion products, but of the products that I use, their essential amino acids are the ones I love the most. Why? Because they actually change their formula when new research comes out. I think they've changed the formula twice now. I use this every day, certainly in days I'm working out, just to get those essential amino acids. Again, it's not necessarily about protein. You obviously need the protein, but the protein really breaks down into amino acids, and you need the essential amino acids, not branch chain. Those are garbage. You need essential amino acids, and Kion is my favorite brand, and they are a sponsor of today's show.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company